It's your boy Cam. Welcome back to the channel, CTB, Cam Talks Boxing, and we're going to be talking about what's next for Teofimo Lopez. Yes guys, let's go straight into it. So we saw Teofimo Lopez fight in New York this past weekend, beating Pedro Campa with a TKO in round 7 out of 10 in the 10 rounder. And look, I'd say he's got a lot of haters, quite a lot of people being harsh, but I think overall solid performance. Shrugged a bit of ring rust off, tried different things, worked on his head movement. Yes, he was getting hit quite a lot at times, but I think he was, testing the waters. It was his debut at a new weight. I think you've got to take that into consideration. And overall, I think strong performance. Got the knockout. Some people are saying it was a bit of an early stoppage, but inevitably, I think it was inevitable that it was going to stop and knock Pedro Campa out afterwards anyway. And yeah, lovely. I think it was a right hook and then a jab. That was quite nice. But yeah, I think overall he looked strong. He looked good. He looked fit. He looked healthy. He looked like a happier fighter. I'm a big fan of Teofimo Lopez, but I do still think he's got a few demons inside of him. Excuse me. So it's just, I think with Teofimo, it's mentally, it's like, is he still mentally there? I think he just needs to work on that, the mental side of things. But other than that, I think, look, who is next for Teofimo Lopez? Look, you saw in the thumbnail, I've put Josh Taylor. And the reason I put Josh Taylor, and a lot of you are going to disagree with the fact that it could be him next, and I'll get into this now. I put Josh Taylor in the thumbnail because his next fight on, I believe it's December 10th at MSG, that's a pay-per-view fight. He needs a big fight, and for a pay-per-view fight, if he fights Arnold Barbossa, if he fights someone at that level, like another warm-up fight, I'm not sure if that's pay-per-view worthy. So that's why I've put it out there. Could he go straight into Josh Taylor in a pay-per-view fight for probably, it'll be like the unified WBO and IBF light junior welterweight titles? I mean, that's if Josh Taylor beats Catchall. It might be Catchall. You never know. It could be Catchall who Lopez faces next. But I think the wise thing to do, and I think the logical next opponent will be Arnold Barbossa Jr. Arnold Barbossa just fought in July, so about 4 weeks ago. He had a unanimous decision in his last performance with a win. He was coming off a long layoff, so he was also rusty like Teofimo. Arnold Barbossa Jr. is a solid opponent. He's 27-0, 10 knockouts. So he's not the biggest puncher, but he's a bigger junior welterweight. He's bigger than Teofimo. He's got a longer reach. He can switch stances. He's got a decent jab. He likes throwing the right hand, and I was watching some of his last performance against Zorrilla, and he was getting tagged a bit, and he had a tough round in his last round against Zorrilla. Zorrilla started putting it on him a little bit, but I think to be fair to Arnold Barbossa Jr., he was obviously rusty, taking off some of the rustiness. So I think, yeah, you can't think too much of it. But overall, I think it'll be a strong. I think it's a strong opponent for Teofimo to fight next. I don't think Teofimo should go straight into a Josh Taylor fight or go straight into a world title fight against like the big boys, as they're calling them, Prograis, Ramirez, etc. I think Arnold Barbossa Jr. will be the best fighter to fight. He's obviously number 3 in the WBO rankings, and Teofimo's 5, so it could be a great eliminator for the winner of Taylor and Catchall. But I think you can see during the fight as well, he was ringside with his father. Top Rank were putting the camera on Arnold Barbossa Jr. quite a lot as well, so I think it's probably bound to happen. I think we could be quite confident that that will be his next opponent, but I'm just not sure about whether that's pay-per-view. So let's see what Bub and Top Rank do in that when it comes to the pay-per-view side of things. I think another point to make with this fight is Arnold Barbossa Jr. wanted the fight now, as in like wanted to be Teofimo's first opponent at 140. He's obviously a dangerous opponent if Teofimo fought the 67th ranked fighter in Pedro Campa, who obviously was he was quite game, he was quite strong, impressive, but he wasn't as risky as a Arnold Barbossa Jr. fight, you know. So of course Teofimo rates and respects Arnold Barbossa Jr. as a live dog. You can't count him out, but I think that'll be a great fight for him next. His second fight at junior welterweight, 140 pounds, and then I think we can get either Teofimo against Josh Taylor or Catchall winner early next year, in the spring perhaps, Q1 or Q2 next year. And then we can also, or he could fight for one of the other vacant titles. The WBO might get a vacant after if Josh Taylor moves up. He could fight for the WBC belt, the winner of Zepeda and Prograis. So I think he's got options, but I think with Teofimo he just needs to have one more fight. I think that'll be perfect. And overall he's got a promising year ahead of him now. He's a bit. I think he's definitely a happier fighter. So let's see what he does next, guys. But I'll be back with another video. It's fight week for AJ Usyk 2, Usyk AJ 2. I'll be doing a podcast with my friend Don, talking controversially about that fight. He's not the biggest fan of AJ. I'll be doing another video on Joshua and how slim he's looking. So keep an eye.
Foreign bad bitch, I can't even pronounce her name. Talking numbers on the phone while I'm getting brains. Switch 4 lanes, I'm in my own lane. You can catch me riding in that foreign thing.